We've got Ryan Poles, we've got Ben Johnson, we've got Adam Hoge down at the owners' meetings. We got a full show for you. Stick around. CHGO Bears starts right now. You are looking live at the CHGO Bears Podcast on a Tuesday with the owners' meetings. We talked to Ben Johnson live on the show yesterday. Well, it actually wasn't live. It was taped to live, whatever you want to call it. But today he met with the media, as did Ryan Poles. We have granted Adam Hoge access to a great life this week down in beautiful Palm Beach.
Yeah, he's killing it down there, so...
Yeah, you're Greg Braggs. I'm Mark Carman.
That's
this is
right.
The CHGO Bears Podcast. Going to hear a ton from Ben Johnson, a ton from Ryan Poles. So let's go. Without further ado, out to the Hooters Hot Wing Hotline. I was at Hooters last night. I had a great time with the Bulls show. CHGO Bulls crushing it at the Chicago location. Bulls not crushing it at Oklahoma City. We're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk to our guy, Adam Hoge, the best friend of Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles this week. Maybe forever. Hoge, you're muted, so don't be muted anymore. You're a professional. Unmute yourself. Now you could say hello. Hi, Adam. Good. There you go. So, hey, we got you a ton to cover here, buddy. So let's just jump right into it. And why don't we start with the head coach before we get to our guy, Ryan Poles. Before we play any of these clips, I just want to know off the top, what was your number one takeaway from today's session with Ben?
More of the same in terms just of a willingness to answer questions and not, dodge things. Even when it comes to some criticism of players, like when he talked about Jaquan Brisker, he's like, yeah, I like Jaquan. Can't wait to work with him. But also when we were in Detroit, we thought he had a habit. We could take advantage of his eyes sometimes. So now we're gonna fix that because now I'm his coach here. It's the willingness to just sort of have these conversations. I think is awesome. It's definitely good for us, good for the show. So yeah, we had 30 minutes with Ben Johnson this morning. We had 15 minutes with Ryan Poles just about, I don't know, an hour ago. So we got a lot to get to here on the show, and whichever way and direction you guys want to go in with these clips, fire away.
No, Steven's getting some of them loaded up, but I'm right there with you, Adam. The level of accountability and just in the way he said it, very, in my opinion, respectfully, but matter-of-factly, he went right down the list. Like you said, Jaquan Brisker, able to manipulate him with his eyes. DeAndre Swift, got to stop trying to hit the home run every time. Get the dirty yards. Cole Kmet, we're going to work on your run blocking, getting that improved. Caleb Williams, hey, we're going to try to do work with you under center. Make sure you're getting comfortable. Braxton Jones, you need to have a better anchor. That's what we're going to work on with you. He went down the list with each and every one of these guys, and to me, that is a refreshing change from obviously what we saw last year and a welcomed one. Obviously, you know how much I've been advocating for somebody like this.
Yeah, when I walked in today, that was Braggs' number one thing. He's calling everybody out, and I actually had the ability to dial up Matt Eberflus, and I asked him, what does he think of Jaquan Brisker's eyes? And Flus said that he has great eyes, really good eyes, and that we love his eyes, and there's nothing better than his eyes. His eyes are beautiful. So this is different. We have a little bit of a change going on here. But let's get into some of these clips, and I believe we're starting with Ben talking about his ideal offensive roster construction. So obviously the Bears can pivot a lot of ways here. So this is how Ben ideally would like to see the offense come to be.
If I remember correctly, because free agency starts first, we acquired Montgomery. He had a heck of a start to his career here in Chicago, and felt good about his play style and how we wanted to play football there in Detroit, and it really translated well. And then when you get into the draft prospects, we viewed Gibbs as more of a weapon, not necessarily 1A, 1B, but more they could coexist and really complement each other's skill set. And to me, that's how you want to construct the roster from all your skill positions. Is you don't want 5, 6, 4 guys necessarily in the receiver room. You want more of a basketball team where you got the point guard, you got the power forward, you have a wealth of different skill sets that you can look to call upon wherever you're at in the field or whatever situation arises.
So he basketball teamed it up. He doesn't want a bunch of 6'4" guys. I don't know. Somebody on the show was talking about getting Deebo Samuel in here, and people were pushing back at me that he looks exactly like DJ Moore. I don't know who did that. But yeah, Hoge, thoughts? He wants different dudes doing different things.
Yeah, but kind of not to get in the Debo thing. What he's trying to say is it's not that he doesn't want 6'4" guys. It's that you don't want 5 of them. You can have one 6'4" guy, and then you can have a guy who's like Debo, but you don't want multiple guys doing the same thing. You want them more like a basketball roster where you have your point guard, your shooting guard, small forward, so on and so forth. They all do different things, and then it all comes together. So actually, signing Debo when they already have a guy who can do that doesn't make sense, which was actually what he was trying to say.
To be fair, that was the point he was making.
That was.
Oh, I thought. I'm sorry. I thought you were going back toward. I should have signed Debo.
Normally I'd let you make fun of him, but this time that was the point he was making.
Thank you for understanding.
I misunderstood.
Yeah. This is a watershed moment in the show. What do you think that means for the draft, Hoge? If anything.
Well, here's the thing. Like, I think they've already mostly accomplished that with the pieces that they have. I don't think they're necessarily missing, quote unquote, a member of their starting 5 on the basketball team. You know what I mean? I think they could use more of them. So I think, and this goes to what's some of what Ryan Poles has already said and echoed today. Like, I think they are in a position where they can truly take the best player available. Because whoever they're going to be drafting is a rookie. That's different than signing a veteran who does the same thing. Like, you can double up with a younger player who's going to develop. But I think like it puts everybody on the table, including Ashton Genty and Tyler Warren, because they, to me, follow that idea of just weapon. Somebody that you can use as a weapon. They're not necessarily, a specific thing in a specific role in your offense. So I think that's my big take. I just more so just like how he put that. Because to me, that is how you should build your roster when it comes to skill positions.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about philosophy through the draft and roster building, but then let's get to your favorite part of this whole thing, the philosophy on the field with EPA and, just the difference between how Matt Eberflus was like, we're going to make sure we have 0 turnovers, and now we have a coach that comes in here that's vastly different. So maybe explain to fans, we have the clip. I don't know if you want to play the clip first, then maybe explain to fans what EPA is to get everybody up to speed, or how do you want to do this?
Yeah, I'll tee this up because we heard this a little bit at Ben's introductory press conference. This idea that quarterback play is actually the passing game specifically is more indicative of your wins and losses than turnovers. And this is something that's he just went into a little bit more detail today about. And what's not in this clip is I followed up later too, because I wanted to know the timeline of this. And he said basically this was something the Lions started to implement going into last season. And it's a study of 3 to 5 of the last seasons. What he likes to call modern football. So essentially what they found by studying teams that are having success today, here is what actually matters.
So the way I understand it right now from our analytics team, the EPA in the passing game is really one of the most critical factors in determining wins and losses right now. That's probably changed over the last 5 years or so, I would have said 5 years ago, turnovers, takeaways, that was number one. From what I understand now, that EPA for the passing game has now surpassed that. So whatever team has the higher passing game EPA at the end of the game, they generally win that game. It's over 80% of the time. So it's a huge stat, and that's where we look to how do we help inflate that number, higher completion percentage, more run after catch opportunities. That's not to say we're not going to take our shots down the field and look for big explosive plays, chunks or touchdowns that way, but there's a lot of ways we can get that done.
And to improve EPA, like what goes into that? Is that a higher completion percentage? Is that more chunk yardage? Like what are the factors you focus on to improve EPA?
Yeah, to me it is completion percentage, and then usually when you're talking about completion percentage, the distance from the line of scrimmage, the completion percentage goes down. Okay, so if you're going to emphasize higher completions, shorter throws, that's where the run after catch with your pass catchers comes into play.
So we're in the weeds here, Hoge. Take us your way.
Explain this to us like we're 5.
Okay, I can do it. So EPA is expected points added, and that is like essentially the most simple way to explain that is when you snap that ball, are you increasing your chances of scoring points on this play or decreasing those chances? Put simply, and football can be very simple within these weeds that you're talking about. When you complete a pass, there's an overwhelmingly likely chance that you have moved the ball closer to the line of scrimmage, or I'm sorry, to the end zone, right? There might be some time where you throw it behind the line of scrimmage and it actually turns into a tackle for loss. But most times you complete a pass, that ball's moving toward the end zone. You have increased your chances of scoring. Your EPA goes up. The biggest thing, and this is really what Ben Johnson's talking about, to derail a drive and to reduce your chances of scoring points on any given play is to take a sack. Negative plays. And what they've found, and Nate Tice, if you check my Twitter timeline, Nate Tice actually took this video that we put out earlier today and quote tweeted it with some awesome numbers on how sacks actually hurt your EPA more than turnovers do. And that's essentially what Ben Johnson's talking about here. What we're saying is that hits principle was great and all that. And this emphasis on taking the ball away, that's all true. All that can be true as well. But at the end of the day, this is a passing league. You have a good quarterback who throws the ball well. That is more important than takeaways. And mind you, Jared Goff won a football game last year in which he threw 5 interceptions.
Right.
Okay. And I think this actually increases the merit, Carm, of one of your arguments in the middle of the season that I kind of scoffed at the time. But your point was throw more interceptions. I want to see you throw more interceptions. I want to see the ball go downfield, take some more chances. And that's an interesting way to look at Caleb's rookie year because he went through that long 9-game stretch of not throwing an interception. But at the end of the day, there were way too many sacks. So I think the message here is we can live with more interceptions if we greatly reduce those sack numbers and just complete passes going forward. If the Bears are able to do that, the win probability skyrockets.
For the record, I did not have EPA in mind when I was making that brilliant argument, but I was having in mind that I want the quarterback to take risks so he can learn and get better quicker.
But you can still take credit for it.
Well, it was a brilliant point by me, and one of a zillion, and I don't need to dance on, around and
genius is very rarely recognized in its time.
That's
so
right.
Congrats to that.
But here, look, just to back up, and you're the great Kevin Fishbane and Adam Johns, who I believe everybody knows on the show, in their piece on this, they just underlined the Lions last year, second best EPA per pass last year, 0.37. So Hoge in the weeds, that means that every time Detroit dropped back to pass, they, in essence, gained 0.37 on the scoreboard. So every 3 plays, if you want to do the math like that, they had a point every time they dropped back. That's how effective they were throwing the ball. Meanwhile, the Bears' EPA last year, 22nd, and when they dropped back, they were 28th. So every time the Bears went back to pass, they went
backwards.
They were the bottom four of the
Yeah.
league. They sucked. So the point that he's underlining is we need to be a lot better throwing the football if you want to break it down to on the very basis of talking to you like you're 5. Throw the ball better.
Yeah.
And if you throw the ball really far down the field, your EPA will skyrocket. If you throw it short down the field and you gain a couple yards, it's still going in a positive direction.
But not only throw the ball better, but to Hoge's point, don't take a sack.
Well,
you
then
know,
have
and
negative points. That hurts.
Do we have that clip ready to
We
go?
do.
'Cause he talked about
Yep.
how they accomplished that. By the way, Hoge in the Weeds, sponsored by Sunnyside.
Yeah, we actually do have that dialed up because obviously this is the big other half of this equation is maintaining its sack discipline and trying to avoid these.
Yeah, it takes a village. I don't know what the number was in terms of seconds that he held onto the ball before releasing it, but we would certainly like to bring that number down. Part of that is how well can we scheme number 1 or number 2 in the progression open for him. The protection up front can get better. The route runners get to their spots faster. We can move the pocket a little bit more. There's a lot of things that we have at our disposal that can help with that process.
So that was one moment in the press conference or in his meeting, his 30-minute talk, where he could have singled out, Caleb's got to get rid of the ball faster. But he didn't do that. He went with, it takes a village. You got to run your route better. You got to protect better. He's got to get the ball out faster. All of us are in this together. I thought, to me, that was the thing that stood out in that particular moment.
Well, and I think the ownership from the coaching standpoint too, you got to love to hear that because he said, we got to scheme up progression 1 and progression 2 so that it's open faster. And I think that's fundamentally, what the problem was with the offense last year is when he says it takes a village, it was all a problem. Not to quote John Fox, but you had routes that weren't necessarily matching the drop back and the timing and the personnel you sometimes had on the field. You had pressure all the time, like just way too much pressure. And then on the back end, yes, it's on Caleb to still avoid the sack. At the end of the day, that's the quarterback's job, and he didn't do a good enough job of doing that. But it takes everything. So they've improved the offensive line. I think they've drastically improved the coaching to put Caleb in a better position to have success. And quite frankly, I think what we're going to find is it's either going to click or it's not. And if it doesn't, it's probably going to be us saying then this is mostly on the quarterback, assuming they can get left tackle figured out. But I think it's more likely that it all really comes together and you're going to see fewer sacks, more completions. You might even see more interceptions out of this. Like that's one of my takeaways from all this conversation too. But I think you can live with that because the overall win probability and hopefully the Bears win total should go up.
Are you learning and growing with each interception? That'll be the key thing. By the way, Braggs, just want to shout you out here. You noticed the Ben Johnson tug going at everybody and being kind of a little cushiony with Caleb. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that Braggs.
I want accountability across the board.
You do. You do. And you underline that on a daily basis. All right. Before we get back to Hoge and some polls here, let's let you know real quick right now about our friends at Bet365, which is live in Illinois. Whatever the amount, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You, the new customer, get yourself signed up and get yourself $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Win or lose, doesn't matter. You bet that $5, you get your $150. You sign up with the code CHGO365. Deposit $10. That's all you got to do. Place a bet for $5. And next thing you know, you're rocking with $150 in bonus bets, and you're on your way to hopefully just having all the fun and making yourself some dollars with Bet365 early payout offer. You're a winner if your team goes 5 runs ahead in baseball. Instant payout. You bet the Cubbies last night against the A's. And they won 18-3. At some point they were up 5 runs. You would have paid out right there. So do take advantage of that. Download the app. Use the code CHGO365 when you sign up. That's your MLB early payout offer. And also, breaking news from Bet365. Once again, $150 bonus bets, $5 win or lose. Sign up with that code CHGO365.
That's right. I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Boston Beer. Light beer just got better. Introducing Sam Adams American Light. It's clean, crisp, and super easy to drink. You see it here on our set. No gimmicks, no fluff. Grab a beer just in time for baseball season. The Cubs won last night, scored a whole bevy of runs, and I was enjoying a Sam Adams American Light while I was watching that game. Sam Adams American Light is not your average light beer. It's brewed with 100% American-sourced ingredients from local independent farmers. Light beer that's made right. Light beer shouldn't feel like a compromise. An American classic so smooth you'll want to crack open another one. It's always Sam season. Light beer just got better. Grab some Sam Adams American Light. Available now at select Chicago retailers. Must be 21 or older. Please drink responsibly as always.
And just a reminder for our friends that have already downloaded Bet365, you do have to be 21 if you or someone you know has a gambling problem. Crisis counselor. Referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER.
Yes, and it was amazing. For the first time in our show history, Carm did not say "but" first heading into the ad break. That was I just feel like that needed to be on the record there.
I was in the flow, man.
You were in the flow.
I was flowing.
Hoge, before we get into Ryan Poles, I mean, I think my other big takeaway from talking with Ben Johnson, you know, obviously he gave the update on Jaquan Brisker, and sounds like he's going to be available and cleared to practice and get out on that field again. But then also Braxton Jones, we kind of were wondering what his timeline was going to be, and Ben Johnson reveals that he sounds like on this track that he's on, and he said he's on the right track, but he'll probably be limited when training camp starts, and he'd like him to put on a little weight to improve his anchor. So what did you take from all that with the Braxton Jones update? Because I thought that was probably one of the biggest notes of this whole thing.
Yeah, it didn't surprise me at all. I mean, I think that that's kind of what I expected with as significant of a leg injury as that was. So, you know, and we've been talking about this now since the combine, I feel like, and how that could potentially impact what they do here. I mean, I think they still like Karan Amagaji. I mean, that's one of the things we heard from Ryan Poles is that he still really likes his skill set. What we hadn't heard was Ben Johnson talk about Karan Amagaji, and he said that he was scouting him last year in Detroit and thought that he was a great developmental prospect. And they all agree that he wasn't put in the best position to have success when he had to play last year. Remember, it was the late concussion reporting, Braxton Jones, that threw Karan Amagaji in there on late notice in Minnesota. So, I think it's – and then, do they draft Will Campbell? And then all of a sudden you have a significant competition potentially going on there. But I think they're in okay shape. It makes me a little nervous, though, if they do not add another left tackle. I still think Karan is a project. I like him as a project, but he might still be a project. And then if Braxton suffers any type of setback, you don't want to be scrambling in August, potentially, not really having a great option to start week one.
I'm right there with you, Hoge. You can say you like Karan Amagaji as a developmental prospect, but that's exactly what he is, still in development. And, Braxton Jones, who knows how healthy he can be when he gets to the summer, how far along he can get, if there is a setback, if there isn't, installing himself into the offense. And I know Ryan Poles also mentioned, hey, having guys where you're providing quality depth and letting that kind of shake out however it needs to. And if a guy wins the job, then maybe somebody else gets traded, kind of peeling behind the curtain of like, hey, this is probably how we'll approach a few different positions, whether that be maybe left tackle or running back.
I'm going to quibble just a little bit with what you guys are saying as far as Karan. I mean, when he says, and his exact quote from Ben was, I liked Karan a lot coming out last year. He was a guy we had earmarked as a potential developmental prospect. He has a lot of traits to work with. I mean, that sounds to me the way he says it, that he likes him a lot in the 5th, 6th round of somebody that he might play in like 3 years. Not exactly as a starting left.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah. So it's and he said, the guy, there was a lot of circumstances as to why he played last year when he wasn't ready, but he still likes him. I think he sees the potential. I'm not saying, there's there's a middle ground here. He's not throwing him away. But back to Braxton, his quotes on Braxton were interesting too. The number one thing, in my opinion, he said, is that tackles need to do is pass protect. So he's almost, Hoge, is he taking off run blocking here? Like, look, man, if you can protect the QB over there, you can be our left tackle, but you got to gain some weight here because you can't anchor, and that's what you got to do.
Well, that gets back to what we were just talking about avoiding sacks, and I think that's why he's saying that at that position at left tackle. So that is interesting that they're challenging him to add weight too when he's dealing with an injury. Now, I would think it would be a lot harder to do the opposite. Like, if they're saying like you gotta cut down. I mean, look, it's tough. It's tough either way. But when you can't go through conditioning the way that you normally would, when you have a leg injury, anything with weight can be hard. I would think though it'd be easier to put on the weight. I don't know, Braggs, you have the most experience with dealing with leg injuries right now, and how it affects your gym habits.
And weight.
I said gym habits. Gym habits is what I said.
And if Braxton needs to get on my program of gaining a few pounds, he can meet me at the local Taco Bell, and we can find our way to getting that done for Ryan Poles. I have a hell of an anchor, and that is my fat ass.
Well, and I was gonna make the same point. We have in real time when we could just do it day by day pictures if we want, time lapse on Bragg since he got hurt.
Yes.
This guy used to be in shape, and now he's just straight disgusting.
Yeah,
and
we'll get back. We'll get back just like Braxton. We'll get back to where he needs to be. But it sounds like they want him.
You're on your way.
They want him to get back and gain weight, which that's crazy to me. So. But I get it. To me, it screams. All right, you want to quibble with where they'll take a left tackle or a potential left tackle in the future? It's either going to be at 10 or it's going to be at 39, in my opinion. I think it'll be one of their first 2 picks. That's my bet.
Well, and we can get into a ton of the Ryan Poles angle on this, but I know Hoge's got to go in a couple minutes. But what can we play the Poles quote on the left tackle competition, Steven? Because this guy's obviously what we're talking about right now. So I thought it was pretty interesting what Ryan had to say with all the options here, and then check out what he adds in at the end, which of course is potentially the draft, if I remember how this quote exactly went. So here's Ryan Poles on the left tackle situation.
Yeah, and then you throw, Carman in the mix, who, not only do I still think, highly of him, especially going back and just watching, the Washington game, there's a lot of signs of him being successful, especially the tackle position. But then he also went through a tough spot, which was, the way it was set up was unfortunate. Minnesota wasn't a great outing for him. So, but there's only a very small sample size there. I know that competition is going to, make the best of both those guys. So we're weighing that as well as just who's best available in the draft. So it's all a part of it. It makes it a little complicated when now you're talking about kind of 3 deep in that space. But I think it makes us really ask tough questions when we're watching specifically like a left tackle. Like, is this guy going to make us better in year 1, year 2, year 3? How do we feel about our guys? Especially in a case where, Dan and Kyle and Declan really haven't had time with either one of their tackles. So there's a lot to work through, but I'm confident that when we sit down and kind of talk through it and look at the guys in this year's draft, and plus we've got to see how it plays out too. There could be, if we have 2, 3 guys that we think are in that spot, they may not be there at 10 either. So we'll be ready for all the different situations that can pop up.
So like 8,000 moving parts here. Is Braxton going to be healthy? Can Carman play? Do the skill guys that they like, do they get drafted? So does that leave them at a tackle? Is Will Campbell there? I mean, I don't, right? I mean, there's a lot going on here, Hoge.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And ultimately, how do they view Will Campbell's arm length too? But I tend to agree with Greg. I think this gets addressed in one of those first 3 picks. Because I just think it'd be way too risky. If Braxton wasn't hurt, I think it's a little bit of a different conversation. And that's why even in the moment when he went down in that game, if the magnitude of it felt really, really big. So I think that's where we're at, and that's probably a good way of Ryan Poles to summarize everything there, even though it was a lot.
Yeah. Well, another day.
Good luck, Ryan. You got this. We're going to play a ton more from him.
Yeah.
And Hoge, I know I think you're catching up with the old GM here coming up. So tell him I say hello. I love what he's doing. Don't worry about the fact that, there were 9 guys drafted after Velus Jones who had more receiving yards when he did. I wouldn't bring that up to him. And make sure you talk about Bagent and what he's done this offseason, please.
Yes. Maybe we'll get some quarterback news. I don't know. Yeah, so Ryan Poles will be joining Hogan Johns. Not exactly sure when the interview will be coming out, but that's happening here soon. It's Ryan Poles Day. Yesterday was Ben Johnson's day to kind of meet with everybody in the Chicago media, and today is Ryan Poles Day. And tomorrow we'll have George McCaskey and Kevin Warren, so maybe some stadium stuff tomorrow. Greg, you might want to take tomorrow's show off.
Did you see the April Fool's thing that's going around? Some dude posted that Naperville is going to be the home of the Bears, and I'm literally getting texts from people. Are the Bears going to Naperville? It's April Fool's Day, team. They're not going to Naperville.
And Mark Potash is going to be the new Bears historian per Mark Potash.
It's a good job for Potash.
I think it's a great role for him. He's earned it, and I think his next tweet was like something that he definitely could not have tweeted if he actually became the team historian.
We love you, Potsy. We love you too, Adam Hoge. Go have fun. We'll talk to you tomorrow, brother. Great stuff.
All right. Thank you, guys. Talk soon.
There he goes.
Absolutely. We're going to get to more Ryan Poles clips here from down at the owners' meetings. Get into a little more Ben Johnson talk.
Really interesting stuff on Kyler Gordon and contract extension there that we'll hit coming back here.
Yep, but absolutely. But want to take a time out to give a shout out to our guys over at Sunnyside. I'm looking forward to working with Sunnyside here on Friday for the Friday 120 clubs. Sunnyside's always a partner with us for the awesome Friday 120 clubs. Make sure you come out to Wrigley Field for every Friday day game and meet us there in the left field bleachers. What is Sunnyside? Well, Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping, a place where all kinds of visitors are welcome to explore, discover, and purchase a wide array of high-quality products. Sunnyside has everything you need to elevate your summer. What are some of the amazing features that make the brand or product awesome? One-stop shop for all your cannabis needs. Sunnyside has an expertly curated menu with over 100 strains to choose from, plus easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Sunnyside is Illinois' favorite dispensary with locations in the city. Wrigleyville, as I said, right down the street from the Marquee, and River North, all the way to the suburbs, Champaign, South Beloit, and more. If you are starting out, Sunnyside has expert guidance and brands we know you'll love, like Good News and Mindy's. And if you're a pro, we've got you covered with over 100 strains on the menu and new ones added daily. Expertly curated wellness advisors, staff, picks, collection. We know you'll love Cresco and Florical's incredible quality and consistent products. So visit Sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter the promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary. Bright buys every day, only for 21 and older or Illinois medical card holders.
And how about our friends at Monarch Money? Tax season right now, such a headache. Does anybody love doing their taxes? I don't think so. But you could do them a little easier if you have if you track your money better, which is what Monarch Money will help you do. Look, you're spending money dining out. You want to know how much. You want to know how much you're spending on food delivery. You want to know how much you're paying for online shopping. You want to know how much you're paying for, how much am I paying in Ubers, whatever, concerts, entertainment, all of it. This is going to break it down for you so you can see, where do I need to cut? Perhaps where can I spend a little more? Start managing your finances to build the life that you actually want. Monarch Money just makes the money managing so simple, easy for the busy lives up there. You're gonna have more money in your pocket because you're gonna be more aware of what you're doing. Monarch Money, the finance tool people actually love. It was named the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025 for the record. That's cool. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use the code CHGO at monarchmoney.com. Put that in your browser and you get half off your first year, 50% off your first year. MonarchMoney.com. Use that code CHGO. We're making managing money cool right here at CHGO, or at least better. I don't know if it's ever cool, but it's cool
It's
when
super cool.
when you got more dough.
It's super cool to have more dough.
You need more dough, and we all need more dough. All right, as I mentioned, Ryan Poles on a lot of topics. I know there's been a bunch of talk about Kyler Gordon. Will he get an extension? I thought he was going to dodge it. He absolutely did not dodge it. Yes, Ryan Poles likes his nickel corner.
Yeah, no, that'll still be a priority. For me, on our exit meetings at the end of last season, I told a lot of the guys in terms of future, if it was contracts or coming back, anything like that, the important thing is I got to get with our current and new, the new coaching staff and kind of see how the different players fit based on what scheme we're going to be running. So we've been able to have those conversations. And I know Kyler is a guy that, we want a part of this moving forward. So, the time of that, I'm not sure how that all is going to work out, but that is a priority.
Doesn't know when, but he does know that Ben Johnson likes Kyler. He knows that Dennis Allen likes Kyler. He knows that he likes Kyler.
I like
Braggs,
Kyler.
you like Kyler. Kyler Gordon's going to be around here at some point. It's 11, 12, 13 million a year. So he's going to get paid.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he wants to be fair to the new coaching staff. Let them meet the players before you start getting ahead of the curve and giving contracts out while you're assembling a new coaching staff. But if you are a good coaching staff or a good defensive coordinator, you know how to get the most out of a guy like Kyler Gordon, who's super talented. So not surprised that the contract extension is more than on the table. And I'm sure just like DJ Moore last year, just like Cole Kmet the year before, they're going to find a way to get that contract extension done as we get closer to the season.
Well, and also, free agency never ends. So what surprise ads, if any, will there be before training camp? I'm not expecting anything, but, hey, Bears have done it many, many times before. Injuries pop up. Guys are still available. Who do you bring in? How much does it cost? How much is left over that they can bake into a contract extension? So all those things, waiting seems to make sense there. But I think this takes us to what Poles is talking about, his defense and Dennis Allen. And Bears fans, I think you're going to enjoy this one because it sounds like the Bears are going to be playing a very aggressive brand of football that hopefully will, result with the quarterback on the ground a whole lot more than we've seen the last couple of years.
Hell yeah.
These coaches and their communication has been outstanding. He wants a very aggressive attacking defense, especially the defensive line, attacking the man in front of you, not so much playing laterally, two-gapping, or even penetrating in gaps. It's really just attacking the offensive lineman in front of you and creating disruption in the run game, and also to bubble back into the quarterback's feet to make it uncomfortable for the quarterback too. So that mentality is definitely going to be there. That's something we'll get done, and we have a lot, and we've done it, in free agency as well. Speed is another emphasis, both because of man coverage, but also just being able to get to the ball as fast as possible.
Be a lot of
Attack, speed. Easier said than done, but there it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because when he talks about, okay, hey, we're not worried about the gaps. We're worried about you dominating your man in front of you with speed, right? So when you're some of these guys that are looking at the draft, looking at a guy like James Pierce or different defensive guys on the edge, and do they fit the prototype of what a Dennis Allen defense is? Sometimes, weight and speed don't really always go hand in hand depending on your size. You want a guy that's 285 like Dio Odengbo. Well, he's not going to have the same kind of speed as a James Pierce, right? Or, I don't know exactly where Mike Green lays out from a weight standpoint. So it's interesting to see like that discussion being had and how that's going to compare to maybe some of the guys they look at in the draft.
Well, and then on the team, he brought up
Austin Booker.
Yep. That was Ben talking about it.
But they said right. I
think
don't know
it was
if it was
Ben. Who? It doesn't matter. One of them said it. The point is that they like Austin Booker, but they also like their defensive ends to be able to set the edge. So
And they asked him to gain weight.
he needs to gain weight. They want him at least at 250. So that's about 20 pounds up, which is a lot. And how are you putting it on? And how are you staying as fast and as agile and as bendy as all the things that you have to be able to get to the quarterback?
Come on, all these guys gaining weight. I know just the guy to help you guys out. I'll be there with a crave case.
Yeah, the Braxton weight I think you can help with. The
20 pounds for Austin Booker, we can get that done.
Yeah,
3 weeks.
Yeah, but Braxton just
3
needs
weeks and 2 cheesy gordita crunches a day.
I'm getting a little sick, honestly. So, but it's true though. I think they are different weights. Like Braxton could in theory get fat. You know, get your ass bigger. Versus Booker, it's like, yeah, no, you need to put on muscle,
right,
and be stronger so you can actually not get pushed around. And I mean, he had a big time problem setting the edge last year. I honestly, can he do it? I don't know. That seems like a big ask. But as I mentioned, my guy Al Harris is at least once a show here.
You really do.
He's looking at Austin Booker like he's going to be the next Richard Dent. Damn it! So maybe he can do it. I know. One thing about Booker, is that he's going to put his best foot forward and work at it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking for reasons for optimism, why not? Can we get to polls on the draft class here? Because it's just we keep on hearing a best player available, and I personally can't hear it enough because it's refreshing, because that's exactly, I think, winning organizations in any sport for that matter, that is your draft philosophy. You take the best player, you don't worry about redundancy, and you figure it out going forward. Football, a little bit different. I get it. If you have a great quarterback, you're not going to draft a great quarterback. But like when it comes to a tight end, or even abundance on the offensive line, or abundance in the backfield, who do you like the most? And he kind of underlines that here.
Just the way it is, I think kind of the top blues, I think that's condensed pretty small early in one. And then there's a wide range of really good starter level players that are going to range from, probably single digits all the way into 50, 60, 70. So really trying to pair where the depth is and where you can get certain guys. And like I said, just the collection of those guys I think are going to be important in terms of moving the needle for us.
So getting a little in the weeds there, like, well, if we think we can get this guy there, then maybe we don't draft so-and-so at 10. Perhaps he could be thinking that way, but I'm guessing that's a little more 41 to 72, perhaps.
Well, if you're trying to see if he's showing his hand with what he's saying, and certainly I think you have to be careful with that. It is lying season. These guys know that the mics are in front of their face and things are going to be clipped and put on social media or on shows like this. And so they got to be careful about what they say. At the same time, where he talks about, hey, the blue chip talent is kind of at the very front. And then after that, some good talent behind, and you get all the way to 50, 60, 70. That leads me and a lot of others to believe that it would be in their best interest to potentially trade back at 10 and get more picks. Maybe, obviously keep one somewhere in that mid-tier first round, but then add more picks in the 40, 50, 60, 70 range and get as many starter potential guys as you possibly can. Obviously, this is going to depend on how the draft lays out and how you fall to 10, but I think when you listen to that like it lines up to make sense about a trade back.
Well, if Shedeur Sanders is there at 10, maybe somebody would be willing to come up. I mean, you can, in theory, go back, but somebody's got to want to come up. Why would they want to come up? Maybe that's one scenario that I could see that would perhaps, fall. If Sanders is there, could the Bears be in a situation where they could get a similar package to what the Giants got when the Bears traded up to get Justin? Something, perhaps, maybe. Just guessing at it. What's also interesting when you talk about the depth of the draft, of course, is the amount of running backs that are in it. And Ben addressed that. So this was Ben Johnson from earlier today on the running back depth in the draft, and also, of course, the situation with DeAndre Swift and the Bears.
There's a lot of flavors to be had here. So value day 1, day 2, all the way through day 3. And I think there's going to be a lot of good undrafted prospects as well this year, particularly at that position. I think they show up each and every year. And so we're really excited. I'll be curious to hear what Eric Bieniemy and he has to say, because I've seen him in the office a few times now, and he'll be like, man, I really like this guy. I really like that guy. And so I know he's passionate about a few of these guys this year.
So that Bieniemy part of it is exciting because give me a running back guru here. I mean, the Bears, to this point, at least in the polls era, you haven't nailed it. You let David Montgomery walk out the door. DeAndre Swift, he ain't getting a home run on that signing. It's fine, whatever. Roschon Johnson, that's not a home run either. So now that you got Bieniemy here and he's talking about who he likes, that's exciting. And it was interesting that Ben Johnson went out of his way to say the people were texting him, quote was, "You just hired the best running backs coach in the NFL." That's what he was getting texts from people around the league, and he wanted everybody to know that today, that he was getting those texts. And then so he adds on, so that's his primary jobs. And then he said, listen, he's going to coach the piss out of these running backs now. Coaching the piss out of them, Braggs.
Well, I mean, you know who he once coached the piss out of, right? That would be...
Are you talking about Jamal Charles?
That would be Adrian Peterson when he was the running backs coach for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, going back to Peterson. Okay.
So when you talk about him understanding that level of talent, I saw somebody in the chat say, well, they're not taking a running back at 10. Well, the Minnesota Vikings once took Adrian Peterson when Eric Bieniemy was the running backs coach. Turned out pretty well for Adrian Peterson and the Minnesota Vikings. So if Ashton Genty, as much as I'm trench drunk every day on this show, I'm not going to take Ashton Genty for the Bears off the table at 10 when you start to really look at what all these guys are saying, what the coaching staff looks like, not just Bieniemy, but Ben Johnson and everything that he brings to the table, looking for weapons. And I know he talked about that at one point with, talking about Jahmyr Gibbs and the mindset there of how they went about drafting him. So, yes, I agree a running back is going to get taken eventually. But if Ashton were to be there at 10, which I do not think he will be, that's certainly going to be an option for the Bears.
Why don't you think he'll be there? Who's taking him?
Raiders. Somebody.
Right. Well, just, on the Raiders thing there, buddy, just so you know, as I try to do this on the fly, not well. The point is that the Raiders, historically just do not take running backs in that spot. So
I'm still with Braggs on that. Right now, their starter's a 32-year-old Raheem Mostert. Behind him, Zamir White, who hasn't worked. And behind him, Sincere McCormick, who you guys have probably never heard of. I mean, that's the running back room right now.
Well, and how many times have they taken a tight end that high? And then they take Brock Bowers last year.
Well, they had taken a tight end the year prior in the second round. So that was a stunner. So, I mean, they really did go best player available there, which just furthers the point of Genty's probably going to be the best player available.
Now you have Pete Carroll come in there. Obviously had Marshawn Lynch, some different guys. The running back out of Michigan State was pretty good for Seattle there for a couple years.
Kenneth Walker.
Walker, that's right. So I don't know. Maybe
it could happen. It could happen. Yeah.
It absolutely could happen. I sometimes I get annoyed how much we talk about that possibility because we've beaten that horse to death, and I understand why. It's a fun scenario to lay out.
And I said this wrong, by the way. It's not the Raiders. It's the GM of the Raiders, and that's John Spytek, all right?
Spytek.
He's been with the Broncos.
Sounds like a James Bond villain.
Spytek has been with the Bucs, the Broncos, the Browns, and the Eagles, okay? That's where he's been. The highest the Tampa Bay ever took their running back drafts, 2018, Ronald Jones, 38, Rashad White, third round, 91, Bucky Irving, fourth round, pick 125. Broncos, 2013, Monte Ball, second round. Eagles, 2009, LaShawn McCoy, second round. So if you want to talk about his history and perhaps what he'll do, trying to make the point that The Raiders, you don't want Ashton Genty. That doesn't make sense for you. That's not what Spytek does. Bears fans, if you want to look for optimism on why he could potentially be there at 10, let's go with that. And maybe he'll be sitting there, and then we'll see what Ryan Poles wants to do.
Well, and as I mentioned, if Ashton Genty is off the table, if Will Campbell does get drafted by, Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, looking for their left tackle of the future potentially, if Mason Graham is off the table, and now we're left with potentially Tyler Warren, or he even gets off the table, then maybe a trade back would be a potential option. And I know Ryan Poles spoke about that potential.
Yeah, I'm not, for where we are right now, I'm not confident on exactly where, the first 9 picks are going to fall.
Yeah.
But that's something that we'll look into, and we'll definitely weigh the option of, hey, if we can move back and collect, a certain pick in this range, could that be really beneficial for us as well? So
all options on the table.
They're in a really good spot. They really are. I mean, they are. You let one of these blue chip guys fall to you at 10, great. If not, you can trade back. There's
Let's not get completely.
No, they're it's annoying because we have last year with a 10-game losing streak and the egg on all our faces from the hype of going into the season last year. But we went through this. We went 12 rounds on shows throughout the season where I've always felt like this wasn't a roster problem. Not saying that the roster was without holes or flaws, but I felt like this roster was much better than what the 10-game losing streak showed, and coaching was a bigger issue for me. And so from my standpoint, maybe it isn't yours, but from my standpoint, now that this coaching staff is in place and now that they've bolstered the holes and the flaws that this roster had from a personnel standpoint, they are in a really good spot for this draft to get quality depth and have a chance to go into this season with a serious chance to compete. You leave the hype at the door, but I think there's a realistic possibility that this team is ready to start winning. The only thing left is for Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson to come together as one. And that may take some time, but I do believe you get that final piece there with everything else they have going on around them from a player and a team standpoint, a coaching standpoint. I am really excited about where things are going.
Well, let's lean into that. Let's lean into the optimism, and let's lean into leadership, which Poles talked about as well.
Love talking about leadership.
We needed some leadership. Ryan Poles, he went out and got some.
Yeah, the beautiful thing with our setup now, especially, the way the trades and free agency worked out, when you have a guy like Joe in the building, he's done it for a long time. When you have someone like Grady Jarrett, he's done it for a long time. That is an added bonus of bringing those guys in because they can show them how to do it. And I always think it's important that in order to do that and lead, you also have to be taking care of business on the field and still be productive, because I've seen situations where there's older guys who aren't really in their prime, and they're not, they're almost in survival mode, just trying to finish out their career, and it just doesn't hold as much weight. So when there's guys that are actually playing at a high level and they've won a bunch of games and they're addressing certain things, I think it's just weighted heavier, and the guys follow and we'll listen to that.
So there you go. Leader on offense, Joe Thuney. Leader on defense, Thuney.
Not two. Got him playing defense too? Why not? Set the edge, Thuney.
Leader on D, Big Grady Jarrett. Let's go.
Yeah.
We got vets who've been there and done that, damn it. Super Bowl champions.
I agree. I like that. I like the coaching. As I said, Ben Johnson today, he gets to address the team for the first time in a week, right? And he said, hey, I'm, not going to pre-plan that. I'm going to procrastinate my message to what the team is going to be, because then, you get better results from that. So I like kind of how he's approaching it. But the way he addressed the media today, again, about the things they need to get better about, he didn't sugarcoat it. He didn't overhype it, Chim. He did go in there and say, as I said earlier, DeAndre Swift, you need to start getting the dirty yards up the middle. Stop trying to hit the home run. Jaquan Brisker, when we scouted against you, we manipulated you with your eyes. Cole Kmet, we're going to get you better with your run blocking. Down the line, you had you had one guy after another. Caleb Williams, we got to get you more comfortable under center. He talked about the receivers. I don't know if it was DJ Moore or Roma Dunze from the clips we had shared with us, but he was talking about getting better with blocking as a receiver. And so for me, to hear Ben Johnson hold the team accountable of what they need to get better about, Eric Bieniemy and Antoine Randall, seeing what they've done from the teams they've come from. Al Harris comes from the Dallas coaching staff. This is what I'm talking about, where I'm optimistic about where this is going. Now they just all have to come together here this summer.
Well, I'll give you another reason for optimism, because I just want you to feel as good as you can possibly feel today.
Thank you.
It's great to be able to sit next to you.
Yep.
Doing a wonderful job.
Thank you.
The gambling, you guys talked about, you touched on this last week, but the gambling markets have spoken, and they're out on over-under wins. Detroit, if you recall, won 15 games last year.
Right.
Yeah, where does Vegas have the number on the Lions win total? Do you know where it is? You want to guess at
9.5.
10.5.
I was
15
close.
minus 10.5 is how much, Greg? 4.5. I'll do it for you. That's a significant drop-off. Significant. And I get it. They've lost their coordinators, but they're also getting healthier, and they've added on defensively too. But that's where it's at. Where are the Minnesota Vikings? 14 wins last year. Where's their over-under? 8.5. Don't worry, I got the answers
What's
to this.
that math?
You tell me, Greg. I know you can do it. 14 minus 8.5. That's 5.5 down.
5.5.
5.5 down.
Say.
The biggest drop in the NFL is what the gambling world is telling you. They do not believe that J.J. McCarthy is going to step in there and be Sam Darnold. They're expecting a major drop back with the Minnesota Vikings. And the Green Bay Packers are at 9.5. So spot on right where they're at. Mm-hmm. The only team that's come up is the Bears. The Bears are at 8.5.
Well, it's a very good division, and that's why you can find your way to a tough losing streak if you don't have your stuff together with this kind of a division. Yeah, and I think another note, and Hoge made mention of this too, when you talk about Detroit's, predicting, Vegas predicting a lesser amount of win total from their 15 last year. You're not just losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. You're losing, assistant coaches that have come over to both the Bears and the Jets coaching staff. The Bears bring in Antoine Randall as an assistant head coach. They bring in JT Barrett as a QB coach. And, when Ben Johnson said that Aaron Glenn in New York also wanted JT Barrett in New York, and Barrett had a decision to make between New York and Chicago. And Adam Hoge notes, interestingly enough, he had chosen the Jets, Justin Fields would be his quarterback. Two former Ohio State quarterbacks between him and JT Barrett. Instead, Barrett is Caleb Williams' QB coach here in Chicago. But more importantly, for him to pick, to follow Ben Johnson and what they've been building offensively here the last few years and not leave Detroit too. You could have potentially had an opportunity to be an offensive coordinator in Detroit if you stayed. He chooses to go to Ben Johnson. So that's a lot. That's a lot for Detroit to make up for from a coaching perspective. Obviously still very talented.
4.5 down. We'll see if they bet that one up. I personally would take the over on the Lions, but hey, that's just me. Maybe it'll be right.
Well, their aggressiveness isn't going to stop, right? That's what Dan Campbell is, and they're not going to stop being aggressive just because they lost a coaching staff.
Yeah, and in the 10 losses in a row, only half of them came against the division, Greg. They did get one division win this year, if you remember.
And I do like just 1-for-1 with, our guy Chim Richels here every day. Like, Ben comes over here, so now we know everything about you, the Lions, but you don't know anything about what we're going to do.
In the audio space, for those listening to the show and don't watch it live, you're really missing out on Braggs having side conversations with the chatters. And today was...
It's not a side conversation. I'm talking directly at you, Chim. You bum.
I'm talking about your actual chats that you put in there. Somebody called you a child earlier today, and then you called him a child, and this is
that's right.
Right. So those are the type of side
that's
conversations.
What you get when you're in the YouTube chat. I might yell at you or threaten you.
Yeah, and if you go on our Discord, he might yell at you there too, which is why you should become a diehard. Thank you for watching. For those checking us out on the television, we're at the top of the hour, so we're leaving you there. Watch us on YouTube. Our Bears 100 has dropped, so that is our 100 prospects in order that fits the Bears. So quarterbacks are down the list because we have a Hall of Famer in Caleb to be. So all those things. And also a reminder, when you become a diehard, you get a discount on our draft party, which is coming up April 24th and 25th. 115 Bourbon Street, Marionette Park. Going to be awesome.
Yep.
6 to 10. Bragg's,
Shout out to Circus Sports for that. If you become a diehard, you get 20% off that event. All you can eat buffet, all you can drink, beers, wines, and wells. The entire CHGO Bears crew will be there both Thursday and Friday, and along with Lance Briggs and Corey Wooten. So we'll be giving you all the analysis, the reaction. We're going to be having some fun with you guys as well.
We have one unused Ryan Poles clip that we
better run it then.
We might as well play it. It's on Jaquan Brisker, and I just thought it was interesting. These two are clearly friends. They text, they hang out, and so I thought Poles actually gets a little drunk on Brisker here and him staying healthy, but then he course corrects at the end.
With Brisker, he's been cleared. He's fired up. He texts all the time about draft stuff, and he wants to win and he wants to be successful. What's that?
No safety.
Yeah.
I'm guessing like the Penn State tight end.
Yeah. So he's. I expect him to be himself. He's going to play his style of football. I've talked about it before. Like even the last concussion that he had, it's unfortunate because I saw a guy doing it the way that he was supposed to protect his head. So I think that was kind of an outlier. And I think there's certain positions, that safety position stuff, especially when you play a physical brand of football, which he does. So you're always going to want depth, really at any position, but it's definitely something that, we do have to consider.
So he has to consider it, but then he's also in sort of it wasn't his fault the way he got the concussion. I'm like, that's actually the point. He's playing the right way, and he's still getting concussed, which sucks for Jaquan and for the Bears, and I hope it doesn't happen to him. But I hope they address it with somebody of significant talent at some point in the draft.
Got to have a contingency plan.
Got to have a contingency plan.
Yeah.
It's very important. Super Chats today, we got 3 of them. Chubbs has been busy. Chubbs82, my guy. You and him have been fighting a little bit. $5 for sure. Everybody is
fighting.
For sure, everybody is lying, and the media is being used, a lot of them willingly, to help the organizations lie.
That's right. Carm's just a pawn in this media game.
I'm just not
in this stadium narratives. Tomorrow he will be used like he's never been used before. I'm sorry. I had to finish that sentence appropriately.
Thank you.
That was
Greg.
you ending it appropriately. Okay.
Thank you, Greg. $10 from Chubbs. What makes me mad is the media tries to pretend that somebody from the front office is calling to give them information with no agenda just to put it out because they like Joe Schmo in the locker room. Chubbs, you get it off your chest, buddy. I'm not completely following you, but you're an amazing Chubbs, and I think your future is bright. Control your friend.
He's fine.
No,
He's right.
Is he?
All you guys do, just putting out info for your buddies. That's all you're doing.
I have no idea. In reference to anything I've done, I really don't know. I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm just Team Chubbs.
But
I'm
on the team too, damn it. Love you, Chubbs. Eric Bochanton, our guy, brags, what happens if the last blue chip player on the board at 10 is Will Johnson and there's no trade back partner?
Then you take the next best player available in the trenches and you tell Will Johnson, appreciate you. That's what I would do.
Great answer, Greg.
Draft Mike Green.
James Weston also in the chat says Crown Point sucks.
And that's great for James Weston. And if he wants, he can meet me at the corner of Wabash and Cermak for a tailgate, and I'll punch you right in the face.
He doesn't mean that. We don't do violence on this show. Apologize right now.
No, I will not.
Okay. Weston, I apologize, and it's all love here. A couple of snidbits for you. A bunch of rules was put out there today. One, the Hawkeye's going to be in use for first down, so the chain gang, I believe they're fired. Congratulations.
Now they're bumping the tush push down the road.
Tush push is still alive.
They're pushing the tush push.
Yeah. Stop changing the rules for one team. They didn't. Tush push is still alive. You get to watch the Eagles.
Detroit got denied on their automatic first down gripes.
We can still see that action this year. I'll try to not go where I was going to go in my head. And
Otto's right. Any threats I make, a very gentle push will just knock me over right now. So my threats kind of don't really have much weight.
No, but you're getting better by the day. So I'd get at you now because when you really get back in shape, you're gonna be a problem.
That's a problem.
Buddy. Yeah. $2 more from Chubbs on the way out here. Did Greg just say he's Team Illinois?
That's not what I said. That's not what I said.
That's what he meant.
That's not what I said.
Or meant. All right.
It is April Fool's Day. You complete and utter fool. That's it. That's all I got. I'm done.
This hostility
I'm
at the
done
end of the show.
I'm done making fun of everyone in the chat.
Okay. Great job, Hoge. Thanks to his hard work and getting, of course, Ben and Ryan. And look forward to a sit-down with Poles on that other podcast that he does. Steven, you were amazing today. I know a ton of stuff was thrown at you. Gregory, you gave it your all, and that's all we can ask out of you every day. I thought you had a couple good moments.
Couple.
Yeah, no, maybe even more than a couple. Hey, tonight, Bulls, Raptors. Anybody says hello to me?
Whoa, Pizzatola. What the heck? Oh, I know what this is.
It's April Fool's, buddy.
Oh, he got me.
You got to follow your Pizzy.
Oh, Pizzy, you got me.
Yeah. The Bears are moving to Naperville, and great show, Carm. Pizzatola.
Damn.
You find me at the United Center tonight. Bulls, Raptors. First beer on me.
Damn, Pizzatola got me.
Outside of that.
Fudge. I said fudge.
Okay. Turn the show off. We'll see you tomorrow. Running back conversation that we've talked about 8,000 times. I promise. Well, I can't even promise because we got a busy show tomorrow. George McCaskey and Kevin Warren getting after it. But I think we'll have some.
You better put a shovel in the ground tomorrow.
Running backs, Poles. Warren, McCaskey tomorrow. Thanks for watching the CHGO Bears Podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.